Listen carefully and don't rush this. If this message reached you, it is not by accident. Something has been changing inside you lately, not around you, inside you. You don't react the way you used to. You don't argue the same way. You don't feel the need to explain yourself anymore. And part of you is confused. You wonder why things that once disturbed your heart no longer hold the same power. You wonder why silence feels safer than noise. Why calm feels stronger than reaction. Let me tell you something gently. This is not you becoming weak. This is not you losing emotion. This is not you giving up. This is Allah working quietly on your heart. Most people never reach this stage. They stay restless. They stay reactive. They stay loud inside. But Allah slowed you down for a reason. And if you misunderstand this phase, you will fight it. You will force yourself back into noise. You will reconnect with what Allah was slowly removing. And you will delay what Allah is preparing. By the end of this message, you will understand why your reactions faded, why your heart feels calmer but different, and why Allah could not take you forward with the version of you that once reacted to everything. Stay until the end, because the final part explains something many people only realize after years of pain, and Allah does not want you to learn it the hard way. When Allah heals the heart, He removes the need to react. There is a quiet change that happens in a person. When Allah begins healing the heart, it does not announce itself. It does not arrive loudly. No one claps for it. No one may even notice it at first. But you feel it. You notice that you are not reacting the way you used to. Things that once disturbed your peace no longer shake you the same way. Before, even a small comment could stay in your mind all day. A single sentence could replay in your head again and again. You would think about it while walking, while sitting, while trying to sleep. You would imagine what you should have said, what you could have replied, how you could have explained yourself better. Your heart would feel tight. Your chest would feel heavy. Your thoughts would not slow down. But now, something has softened. The same type of words may still be spoken. People may still misunderstand you. Situations may still feel unfair. Yet your heart does not jump the same way. You pause. You breathe. You feel the moment pass through you instead of staying stuck inside you. This change is not accidental. This is what healing looks like when Allah does it gently. Before healing begins, the heart is sensitive. Not sensitive in a bad way, but sensitive because it has been hurt. When a heart has been wounded, it reacts quickly. It reacts to protect itself. It reacts to defend itself. It reacts because it is tired of being misunderstood. It reacts because it is scared of being ignored or disrespected again. That is why reactions used to come so fast. Not because you were dramatic, not because you were weak, but because your heart was trying to survive. Allah sees this. Allah understands this. And when Allah decides that your heart has carried enough, He begins to heal it. But healing does not always look like happiness. Sometimes healing looks like calm. Sometimes healing looks like silence. Sometimes healing looks like no reaction. You stop responding immediately, not because you don't care, but because you finally feel safe inside, safe enough to pause, safe enough to breathe, safe enough to let things go. When Allah heals the heart, He removes the constant pressure to react. The pressure to defend your name, the pressure to explain your intentions, the pressure to correct every misunderstanding. You slowly realize something important. Not every misunderstanding needs your energy. Not every comment needs your answer. Not every situation needs your emotional response. And this realization brings relief. Before, you felt like you had to speak, had to respond, had to explain. Now, you feel allowed to be quiet. Not quiet out of fear, not quiet out of weakness. Quiet because your heart no longer feels threatened. This is a big change. A healed heart does not rush. It does not panic. It does not jump into every emotional situation. It chooses peace when possible. There was a time when silence felt heavy, like you were losing something, like you were letting someone win. But now silence feels light. It feels like rest. It feels like Allah is holding your heart. So you don't have to. You start trusting something deeply, even if you don't say it out loud. You trust that Allah knows your intention, even when people don't. You trust that Allah sees your effort, even when it goes unnoticed. You trust that Allah understands your silence, even when others misunderstand it. And this trust changes everything. When you trust Allah with your intention, you stop chasing validation from people. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop needing to be understood by everyone. You stop needing to react just to feel seen. Your worth no longer feels fragile. Your heart becomes steady. This does not mean you stop feeling emotions. You still feel sadness. You still feel disappointment. You still feel pain. But emotions no longer control your actions. You feel them and then you let them pass. This is not numbness. This is balance. This is a heart that has learned how to rest in Allah. Before, your heart reacted because it was carrying old wounds. Now, your heart stays calm because those wounds are healing. When a wound heals, it doesn't disappear overnight, but it stops hurting at every touch. This is what is happening inside you. The world has not changed much. People have not changed much, but you have changed. Allah has placed a gentle shield around your heart, a shield that blocks unnecessary stress, a shield that filters what enters you, a shield that protects your peace. This is mercy. Not the loud mercy people expect, but the quiet mercy that saves you slowly. Allah is teaching your heart that it does not have to react to survive, that it does not have to defend itself all the time, that peace is allowed. And this lesson changes the way you live. You begin to sleep better. You begin to think less. You begin to feel lighter. Not because problems disappeared, but because Allah taught your heart how not to carry every problem. This calm is not emptiness. It is healing. And healing is never rushed. As this healing continues, something else begins to change. You start noticing that the urgency inside you is gone. Before, everything felt urgent. Every reply felt necessary. Every explanation felt important. Every silence felt dangerous. You felt like if you didn't react immediately, you would lose something. Lose respect, lose control, lose your place. But now, that urgency is fading. You don't rush to answer. You don't rush to defend. You don't rush to explain. And strangely, nothing bad happens. The world doesn't collapse. You don't disappear. Your worth doesn't reduce. Instead, you feel calmer. This is because Allah has removed something heavy from your heart. The fear of being misunderstood. When that fear lives in the heart, il force réaction. It forces explanations. It forces argument. It forces emotional exhaustion. But when Allah lifts that fear, the heart relaxes. You begin to understand that being misunderstood by people does not mean you are wrong. You understand that silence does not mean you are losing. You understand that not reacting does not mean you are weak. It means you are no longer controlled by fear. This is a big spiritual shift. Allah is teaching your heart that safety does not come from people's approval. Safety comes from Him. And when safety comes from Allah, the heart no longer panics. Another change slowly appears. You start choosing when to speak. Before, words came out because emotions pushed them out. Now, words come out only when they are needed. You speak less, but when you speak, there is more weight in your words. You listen more, you observe more, you understand more. This is not accidental. Allah is training your heart to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. Wisdom does not shout. Wisdom does not rush. Wisdom waits. There was a time when you felt everything deeply and reacted deeply. Now you still feel deeply, but you don't react deeply. This balance is rare, and Allah does not give it to everyone. This calmness is not for comfort alone. It is preparation, because a heart that reacts to everything cannot carry heavy responsibility. A heart that explodes easily cannot lead. A heart that is shaken by every word cannot remain steady during trials. Allah knows what is coming in your life. He knows the responsibilities ahead. He knows the tests ahead. He knows the people you will have to deal with. So He prepares you early. He trains you through calm. He teaches you to pause before you are required to be strong. Another beautiful thing happens during this healing. You start protecting your energy. Before, your energy was open to everyone. Every comment entered you. Every opinion affected you. Every mood around you became your mood. You were emotionally available to everything. But now your heart has boundaries. Not hard boundaries, gentle ones. You allow what nourishes you. You block what drains you. You don't argue with everyone. You don't explain yourself to everyone. You don't open your heart to everyone. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect taught by Allah. Allah teaches you that your emotions are valuable. Your peace is valuable. Your heart is valuable. And not everyone deserves access to it. You start realizing that reacting to everything was costing you peace. It was stealing your sleep. It was tiring your mind. It was exhausting your soul. So Allah removes that habit gently, not by force, but by healing. You no longer feel the need to revisit old conversations. You no longer replay situations in your mind endlessly. When something ends, it earned. When someone misunderstands you, you let Allah handle it. This trust did not come overnight. It came after pain, after disappointment, after moments where reactions did not help you. Allah allowed you to experience those moments so you could learn that peace is better than reaction. Another quiet change appears. You begin to feel closer to Allah. Not louder in worship, but deeper. Your dua become kalme. Your prayers feel heavier with sincerity. Your heart speaks to Allah more than your tongue speaks to people. Because when reactions reduce, reflection increases. When noise reduces, connection increases. When arguments reduce, du'as increase. Allah replaces reactions with reflection, and reflection leads to clarity. You begin to see situations more clearly. You understand people better. You recognize patterns you didn't see before. You stop taking everything personally. You understand that some people speak from pain, some speak from insecurity, some speak from ignorance. And you don't carry what was never yours to carry. This understanding protects your heart. Silence starts feeling powerful, not empty, not lonely, powerful. Because you know your silence is not weakness. It is trust. Trust that Allah will defend you better than your words ever could. Trust that Allah will reveal the truth without you forcing it. Trust that Allah will handle what you leave to Him. And slowly the heart rests. Not because life became easy, but because Allah became closer. This calmness you feel is not the end of growth. It is the beginning of a stronger version of you. A version that does not break easily. A version that does not react impulsively. A version that chooses peace without guilt. Allah is not making you less emotional. He is making you emotionally stable. And emotional stability is a form of strength. A strength that lasts. Allah reduces your reactions to protect your dignity. There is another quiet change that happens when Allah begins guiding a heart more deeply. You stop reacting not because you are tired of people, but because Allah is protecting something precious inside you. That precious thing is your dignity. Before, reactions came quickly. Words came out fast. Explanations poured out without pause. You felt the need to clarify everything, to defend yourself immediately, to correct every misunderstanding. If someone said something unfair, you felt pressure in your chest. If someone questioned your intention, your heart rushed to respond. You didn't want to be seen the wrong way. You didn't want to be judged unfairly. You didn't want silence to make you look weak. So you reacted, and sometimes those reactions cost you peace. Sometimes they cost you respect. Sometimes they cost you sleep. Allah watched all of it. Allah saw how your heart struggled. Allah saw how you tried to protect yourself with words. Allah saw how some conversations left you feeling smaller, not stronger. And then Allah did something gentle. He slowed you down, not by force, not by pain, but by wisdom. You started feeling a pause inside you before reacting, a small hesitation, a moment of silence. At first, that pause felt uncomfortable. Your heart would say something, explain yourself, defend your name. But something deeper whispered, wait. That whisper was not weakness, it was protection. Allah was teaching you that dignity does not always need a response. Not every explanation restores respect. Not every argument clears misunderstanding. Not every reply brings peace. Some replies only drain you. Allah knows this. That is why He teaches the heart to remain silent when speaking would lower you. Silence in these moments is not surrender, it is elevation. You begin to notice that when you don't react immediately, you feel lighter afterward. Your heart does not feel heavy Your chest does not feel tight. Your mind does not replay the conversation again and again. You realize something important. Some arguments are designed to pull you down to a level where dignity cannot survive. Allah does not want you there. So He removes the urge to react. Before, you thought reacting meant strength. Now you begin to see that restraint is strength. Real strength is being able to stay calm when emotions are trying to take control. Real strength is choosing silence when words would only harm you. Real strength is walking away without needing the last word. This does not happen suddenly. Allah trains the heart slowly. He allows you to see how reacting never really solved things. He allows you to feel how silence protects you better. You start noticing that people who constantly react often lose respect over time. Their words become noise. Their emotions become predictable. Their dignity slowly fades. But the one who speaks with restraint, who chooses words carefully, who does not react to every trigger, that person is respected. Allah wants that respect for you, not the respect that comes from fear, but the respect that comes from self-control. You begin to understand that dignity is not loud. It does not argue. It does not shout. Dignity stands quietly. And Allah loves dignity. This is why He protects it. Sometimes Allah protects your dignity by stopping you from saying something you would regret later. Sometimes He protects it by closing your mouth before anger speaks. Sometimes He protects it by removing the emotional rush that once controlled you. You may not realize it immediately, but later you look back and think, I'm glad I didn't respond. I'm glad I stayed quiet. I'm glad I didn't lower myself. That relief is a sign that Allah intervened. This change can feel strange at first. You may feel like you are losing your voice, like you are letting things slide, like you are allowing people to think what they want. But slowly, you learn something powerful. People will think what they want anyway. Explaining yourself does not guarantee understanding. Reacting does not guarantee respect, but protecting your dignity always protects your heart. Allah is teaching you that not every situation deserves access to you. Your emotions are valuable. Your peace is valuable. Your silence is valuable. And dignity grows when you stop giving it away cheaply. This is why reactions are reducing, not because you are becoming smaller, but because Allah is lifting you higher. As this lesson settles into your heart, you begin to notice something else. People start responding to you differently, not because you changed your words, but because you changed your presence. Before, when you reacted quickly, people knew they could pull a response from you. They knew which buttons to press. They knew which words would trigger you. They knew you would explain, defend, or react. And some people enjoy that control. But when Allah removes reactivity, that control disappears. You stop feeding unnecessary conversations. You stop giving emotional reactions on demand. You stop entering arguments that go nowhere. And suddenly, the noise reduces. Some people become confused by your silence. Some become uncomfortable. Some try harder to provoke a response. But you don't move, not out of pride, not out of stubbornness, out of calm. This calm becomes a shield that protects your dignity without you saying a word. You begin to understand that silence can communicate more than explanations ever could. Silence shows confidence. Silence shows self-control. Silence shows that you are not desperate to be understood, and desperation is what often weakens dignity. Allah removes desperation from the heart by teaching it restraint. Another quiet change appears. You start trusting time. Before, you wanted to correct everything immediately. You feared that if you didn't speak now, the misunderstanding would stay forever. But now, you realize something powerful. Truth does not need panic. What is real settles with time. What is false exposes itself with time. Allah handles what you leave to Him. You begin to let time speak for you instead of exhausting yourself with words. This trust brings relief. You no longer feel pressure to fix how others see you. You understand that Allah is the best witness. And when Allah is your witness, people's opinions lose their weight. This lesson also changes how you speak when you do choose to speak. Before, emotions spoke first. Now, wisdom speaks first. You say fewer words, but those words carry meaning. You no longer explain everything. You say what is necessary and stop. You don't add extra sentences to convince. You don't overtalk to protect yourself. This simplicity is powerful. People listen more because you speak less. Allah is training your tongue just as He is training your heart. Another important change happens. You begin to forgive more easily, not because people deserve forgiveness, but because holding resentment requires constant emotional reaction. And Allah does not want your heart trapped in emotional loops. By reducing your reactions, Allah frees you from carrying grudges. You stop replaying hurtful moments. You stop reopening old wounds. You stop letting past words control your present mood. Forgiveness becomes easier because your heart is no longer inflamed. This forgiveness protects your dignity too. An angry heart often says things that lower its own value. A calm heart remains protected. You also start noticing that silence keeps doors open. Arguments close doors. Reactions burn bridges. But calm responses or no response keep possibilities alive. Allah may have plans you cannot see yet. People you deal with today may be part of something bigger tomorrow. Allah protects your future by teaching you restraint now. This is not accidental. Allah knows exactly which situations you are being trained through. He knows which words you are being protected from saying. He knows which reactions would have delayed your growth. So He removes the urge. You may sometimes feel misunderstood in silence. You may feel unseen at times. But Allah says, Allah records every restraint. Every moment you stayed quiet when you could have reacted, and Allah rewards restraint. Not always immediately, but always perfectly. This lesson slowly builds inner strength. A strength that does not depend on winning arguments. A strength that does not rely on being right in every conversation. A strength that remains intact even when misunderstood. This is the strength Allah loves because it reflects trust. Trust that Allah will defend you better than your reactions ever could. Trust that Allah will raise you without you pushing yourself forward. Trust that Allah will protect your dignity as long as you protect your heart. And slowly this lesson settles completely. You no longer feel the need to react to everything. You feel safe being quiet, safe being calm, safe being patient. Not because the world became gentle, but because Allah made your heart strong. This is not silence born from fear. This is silence born from guidance. And guidance always leads to elevation. Less reactivity means your heart is no longer begging for validation. There comes a point in a person's life when the heart stops asking the world for reassurance. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly. Before, there was a constant need inside, a need to be understood, a need to be appreciated, a need to feel seen. When someone misunderstood you, it hurt deeply. When someone ignored your effort, it stayed with you. When someone questioned your intention, your heart rushed to explain. You wanted people to know your side. You wanted them to see your heart. You wanted fairness. This need was not wrong. It was human, but it was heavy. Because every time you looked to people to understand you, you placed your peace in their hands. And people are inconsistent. Some listen today and forget tomorrow. Some understand once and misunderstand again. Some never try to understand at all. Each time that happened, your heart reacted, not out of pride, but out of hunger. The hunger to be validated. Allah sees this hunger. Allah knows how exhausting it is to keep proving yourself. So at a certain stage, Allah begins filling the heart differently. Not with praise, not with attention, but with certainty. Certainty that He knows. When that certainty enters the heart, something shifts. You stop explaining yourself as much. You stop correcting every misunderstanding. You stop feeling restless when people don't see your effort. Not because effort stopped, but because the heart feels full. A full heart does not beg. A full heart does not chase approval. A full heart rests. This is one of the quiet reasons why reactions reduce. Before, reactions were fueled by the need to be seen. Now, that fuel is gone. You still care about doing good. You still care about intentions. You still care about being sincere, but you no longer need applause for it. You begin to feel okay doing the right thing, even if no one notices. You feel okay being misunderstood as long as Allah understands. This freedom is powerful. Before, a single opinion could shake your mood. Before, a single comment could change your entire day. But now, opinions pass by without entering deeply. You hear them, you register them, and then you let them go. Your heart no longer clings to them. This does not mean criticism never hurts. It still does sometimes, but it no longer controls you. You no longer shape your worth around what people say. You shape your worth around what Allah knows. This shift changes how you move in life. You stop performing for people. You stop adjusting yourself to please everyone. You stop explaining your silence. You stop justifying your boundaries. You become more comfortable being who you are without constant approval. And with that comfort comes calm. There was a time when silence felt uncomfortable. You felt like silence meant weakness, like silence meant acceptance of wrong, like silence meant losing. But now silence feels natural because you are no longer trying to convince anyone of your value. You trust that Allah already sees it. This trust does something beautiful. It frees your heart. You no longer carry the weight of other people's expectations. You no longer live to meet everyone's standards. You begin to live with sincerity instead of performance. And sincerity brings peace. This peace is not loud. It does not announce itself, but it is steady. You notice that you react less because there is less inside you that feels threatened. When validation was missing, your heart reacted to protect itself. Now, that validation comes from Allah. The heart feels safe. Safe hearts don't rush. Safe hearts don't panic. Safe hearts don't fight for attention. They remain calm. Another subtle change happens. You stop comparing yourself to others. Before, comparisons fed reactions. You would feel behind or overlooked or unseen. Now, comparison feels pointless. You understand that everyone is on a different path. Everyone is being tested differently. Everyone is seen differently by Allah. And Allah never misses anything. This understanding softens the heart. You stop reacting to success around you. You stop reacting to attention others receive. You stop reacting to praise given to someone else because you trust that Allah's plan for you is personal. You also begin to accept that not everyone is meant to understand you, and that acceptance brings relief. You no longer take misunderstanding personally. You no longer feel the need to fix how others see you. You allow people to think what they think, and you allow Allah to handle the rest. This does not make you careless. It makes you grounded. Grounded hearts do not shake easily. They remain steady because they are anchored somewhere deep. Anchored in faith, anchored in trust, anchored in Allah. This anchoring explains why reactions continue to fade. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming secure, and security always looks quiet. As this certainty grows inside you, your relationship with people begins to change, not in a harsh way, not in a distant way, but in a healthier way. Before, you needed people's reactions to feel settled. If they approved, you felt calm. If they criticized, you felt disturbed. If they ignored you, you felt unseen. Your emotions rose and fell based on how others treated you. That is a tiring way to live. Allah did not create the heart to depend on something so unstable. So He slowly shifted your heart away from people and closer to Him. Now, when someone praises you, you don't rise too high. When someone criticizes you, you don't fall too low. Your heart remains balanced. This balance is a gift. It allows you to interact with people without losing yourself. You listen without needing approval. You speak without seeking validation. You help without expecting recognition. And because of this, your reactions naturally reduce. There is nothing left to defend. Another quiet change appears. You begin to accept your own imperfections. Before, criticism hurt deeply because it touched something fragile inside. You were afraid that people's words might be true. But as Allah fills your heart with certainty, you stop fearing that. You know who you are trying to be. You know your intentions. You know your effort. And you know that Allah sees all of it. So when someone points out a flaw, you don't explode. You reflect. If it is true, you improve. If it is false, you move on. either way, your peace remains. This is maturity. This is a heart that no longer needs to protect itself with reactions. Another beautiful thing happens. You stop over-explaining. Before, silence felt dangerous. You felt the need to add more words, more context, more explanations. You wanted to make sure you were not misunderstood. Now, you speak clearly and then you stop. You don't add unnecessary details. You don't defend every angle. You trust that those who need to understand you will understand, and those who don't were never meant to. This trust removes pressure from your heart, pressure that once caused reactions. You also begin to notice that you feel less anxious, not because life became easier, but because your heart is no longer looking outward for reassurance. Anxiety often comes from depending on things we cannot control. People's opinions, people's moods, people's understanding. Allah removes that dependency, and with it, anxiety softens. Your thoughts slow down. Your breathing becomes easier. Your chest feels lighter. This is healing. Another change settles in quietly. You become more sincere. When validation is removed, sincerity increases. You stop doing things to be seen. You do things because they are right. You pray because it matters. You help because it matters. You stay patient because it matters. Not because people are watching. This sincerity brings peace that no praise can give. You also notice that relationships become clearer. Some people remain close. Some naturally drift away, and that is okay. You no longer hold on tightly to people who drain you. You no longer chase connections that require you to perform. You allow distance without guilt because you trust that Allah arranges who stays and who leaves. This trust reduces emotional reactions. You don't panic over distance. You don't react to silence. You don't chase closure. You let Allah handle it. This lesson also teaches you to be gentle with yourself. Before, you judged yourself harshly based on people's reactions. Now, you judge yourself based on sincerity, and sincerity is quieter. You stop pushing yourself to meet impossible standards. You allow yourself to grow slowly. This gentleness brings calm. You realize that you don't need to impress anyone. You only need to be honest with Allah. And honesty with Allah brings peace with yourself. This peace changes how you move through the world. You walk slower. You think clearer. You react less. Not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things now. Your heart is no longer scattered. It is focused. Focused hearts don't react easily. They remain steady because they know where they belong. And that place is with Allah. This is why reactions continue to fade. Not because life became silent, but because your heart found certainty. And certainty always brings calm. Allah is teaching you emotional sabr, not emotional suppression. There is a stage in life where Allah begins teaching the heart how to be patient in a new way. Not the patience of forcing silence, not the patience of holding anger inside, but a patience that settles the heart itself. Before the stage, patience felt heavy. You would stay quiet on the outside, but loud on the inside. Your tongue would be silent, but your thoughts would be screaming. You would replay words, replay faces, replay moments. You would tell yourself to be patient, yet your heart would feel restless. This kind of patience is exhausting. Allah does not want the heart to suffer silently forever. So when Allah truly begins guiding the heart, He teaches a different kind of patience. A patience where the heart itself becomes calm. This is when reactions reduce, not because you are forcing control, but because there is less fire inside. Before, emotions pushed you to react. Anger pushed you. Hurt pushed you. Fear pushed you. Now, those emotions still exist, but they no longer push. They come and they go. This change is subtle. At first, you may not even realize it. You may notice that situations that once made your heart race now only cause a small pause. You still notice them. You still understand them, but your heart does not panic. This is emotional patience. It is when the heart learns to stay balanced even when emotions pass through it. This patience is not numbness. You still feel pain. You still feel disappointment. You still feel sadness. but pain no longer controls your actions. Before, pain demanded a reaction. Now, pain is acknowledged and then released. Allah teaches the heart that feeling something does not mean acting on it. This lesson takes time. Allah allows the heart to go through moments where reacting would make things worse. Moments where silence protects you. Moments where waiting brings clarity. Through these moments, the heart learns something powerful. It learns that not every emotion needs an immediate response. And this realization brings peace. Before, you believed that reacting was the only way to protect yourself. You believed that if you didn't respond, the pain would grow. But Allah shows you the opposite. He shows you that reacting often keeps pain alive, and patience allows pain to settle. This kind of patience does not mean accepting injustice. It means choosing the right moment. It means trusting that Allah will open the right door at the right time. As this patience grows, your inner dialogue changes. Before, your thoughts were loud, they rushed. They argued, they defended. Now, your thoughts slow down. You reflect instead of reacting. You observe instead of exploding. You understand instead of assuming. This calm thinking is part of emotional patience. Allah is training the heart to think clearly even when emotions are present. This clarity is rare. Most people react because they are overwhelmed by emotion. Allah does not want your heart to live overwhelmed. So He teaches it balance. Balance between feeling and acting. Balance between silence and speech. Balance between patience and strength. Another change appears quietly. You stop feeling guilty for not reacting. Before, silence made you uncomfortable. You felt like you were letting things slide, like you were allowing disrespect. But now, silence feels intentional. It feels like a choice, not a weakness. You begin to understand that reacting does not always fix things. Sometimes it only creates new problems. Allah helps you see that patience protects your future. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Actions done in emotion can leave long scars. Allah loves you too much to let you damage your future because of a moment. So He teaches patience before damage happens. This patience is gentle. It does not feel forced. It feels natural. You find yourself choosing calm without struggling. This is a sign that the heart is healing deeply. Because when the heart is healed, patience does not hurt, it rests. You also begin to notice that your body feels different. Your chest feels lighter. Your breathing feels slower. Your sleep improves. Emotional patience affects the body too. Before, emotional reactions kept your body tense. Now, calmness relaxes it. Allah designed the body to respond to the heart. A calm heart creates a calm body. This is mercy. Another subtle shift happens. You become more compassionate. Before, pain made you defensive. Now, pain makes you understanding. You realize that many people react because they are hurting too. This realization softens your response. You don't take everything personally. You see behavior without attaching it to your worth. This compassion comes from emotional patience. You are patient not only with situations, but with people. This does not mean you allow harm. It means you understand without carrying their behavior inside you. Understanding without absorbing. This protects your heart. As this lesson deepens, you start trusting Allah's timing. Before, impatience pushed reactions. You wanted answers now. Solutions now, justice now. Now, you trust that delay does not mean denial. You trust that Allah sees what you cannot see. This trust removes restlessness. Restlessness was fueling reactions. When restlessness fades, reactions fade. Allah replaces restlessness with reliance. Reliance calms the heart. This patience also changes how you make decisions. Before, decisions were emotional. Now they are thoughtful. You wait, you reflect, you pray, then you act. This way of living protects you from regret. Allah loves protecting His servants from regret. That is why He teaches patience before reaction. You may notice that others still react strongly around you. They raise their voices, they rush to speak, they explode emotionally, and you remain calm. not because you are better, but because Allah trained you. This calm stands out. Some people may misunderstand it. They may think you don't care. They may think you are distant. But Allah knows the truth. He knows the work He is doing inside you. This patience is not weakness. It is strength that does not need noise. Strength that does not need proof. Strength that remains steady, even when tested. And Allah loves steady hearts. He loves hearts that can feel deeply without being controlled by emotion. This is why reactions reduce, not because you stopped feeling, but because Allah taught your heart how to carry feelings gently. As this kind of patience settles more firmly in your heart, you begin to notice that life feels less heavy. Not because problems disappear, but because they no longer sit on your chest the same way. Before, every problem felt urgent. Every issue demanded an immediate reaction. Every delay felt unbearable. Your heart would rush ahead of time. Your mind would imagine worst outcomes. Your emotions would pull you into panic. But now, something inside you waits. You still recognize the problem. You still understand its seriousness. But you no longer panic. This is one of the clearest signs that patience has moved from the tongue into the heart. When patience lives only on the tongue, it feels forced. When patience lives in the heart, it feels natural. You stop fighting the moment. You stop arguing with reality. You accept where you are without giving up hope for where you are going. This balance changes how you experience life. Another quiet shift happens. You begin to respond instead of react. Before, reactions came from emotion. Now, responses come from clarity. A reaction is fast and uncontrolled. A response is calm and intentional. Allah is training you to respond. This training protects you from regret. You no longer send messages you wish you could delete. You no longer speak words you later wish you could take back. You no longer make decisions based on temporary feelings. This protection is mercy. Allah knows how damaging one emotional moment can be. So He slows you down. This slowing down is not delay, it is protection. Another beautiful change appears. You start trusting yourself. Before, emotions made you doubt yourself. You questioned your decision. You second-guessed your silence. You wondered if you were doing the right thing. Now, you trust your calm. You trust that if something truly needs your voice, Allah will open your heart to speak. And if silence is better, Allah will give you peace with it. This trust removes inner conflict. Before, you were fighting yourself. Part of you wanted to react. Part of you wanted peace. Now, those parts are aligned. Peace leads. This alignment brings rest. Rest that you may not have felt in a long time. Another change settles in gently. You stop fearing strong emotions. Before, emotions scared you because they controlled you. Now, emotions don't scare you because you know they will pass. You allow yourself to feel sadness without drowning in it. You allow yourself to feel anger without letting it speak. You allow yourself to feel disappointment without becoming bitter. This emotional safety comes from patience. Patience teaches the heart that feelings are visitors, not permanent residents, and visitors eventually leave. This understanding reduces fear. Fear was fueling reactions. When fear fades, reactions fade. You also notice that your prayers change. Before, prayers were rushed, filled with urgency and worry. Now, prayers are calmer. You speak honestly. You sit longer. You listen more. You no longer demand answers immediately. You trust that Allah hears you, even in silence. This calmness in prayer reflects calmness in life. Allah connects the heart in all areas. Another subtle shift happens. You become more grateful. Before, impatience blocked gratitude. You were focused on what was wrong, what was missing, what was delayed. Now, patience opens your eyes to what is already there. Small blessings feel bigger. Simple moments feel lighter. Gratitude softens the heart. A soft heart does not react harshly. It remains gentle. You also begin to notice that you recover faster. Before, emotional moments stayed with you for days. Now, they pass more quickly. You don't carry yesterday's emotions into today. This is healing. Allah is teaching your heart how to release. Release is part of patience. Holding on is what caused pain. Releasing brings peace. This patience also changes how you handle disappointment. Before, Disappointment felt personal, like a failure, like rejection. Now, disappointment feels like redirection. You don't rush to blame yourself or others. You pause. You reflect. You trust that Allah knows what you cannot see yet. This trust prevents bitterness. Bitterness destroit patience. Allah protects you from bitterness by teaching patience early. As this lesson becomes part of you, you stop measuring strength by reaction. You realize strength is not loud. Strength does not rush. Strength remains steady even when tested. This kind of strength is rare, and Allah does not give rare things without purpose. He is preparing you to face situations that require calm, preparing you to deal with people who may not be gentle, preparing you to carry responsibility without losing peace. This patience is not the end. It is a foundation strong enough to support what is coming next. You may not know what Allah is preparing you for, but this calm is proof that preparation is happening. You are no longer reacting because Allah is building something deeper, something stable, something strong, something that does not break easily. And when the heart reaches this stage, the world loses its power over it. Not because the world became quiet, but because Allah taught the heart how to remain calm within it. This is the patience that transforms a person, not overnight, but forever. When Allah becomes enough, noise loses its power. There comes a moment in life when the heart quietly changes its center. Before this moment, your heart was often pulled outward, pulled by people, pulled by situations, pulled by noise, pulled by opinions. Your peace depended on what others said. Your mood depended on how situations turned out. Your emotions rose and fell based on things you could not control. This was not because you were careless. It was because your heart was searching for something to hold on to. Every heart searches, and before the heart finds its true center, it attaches itself to many things: approval, attention, outcomes, validation, control. But these things are unstable. They shift, they disappear, they disappoint. And every time they did, your heart reacted, not because you wanted drama, but because your peace was tied to something fragile. Allah sees this. Allah knows that a heart cannot survive like this forever. So at a certain stage, Allah gently changes the center of your heart. He moves it inward and upward toward Him. This shift is quiet. There is no announcement, no sudden happiness, no loud sign, but you feel it. You notice that things that once controlled you no longer have the same power. Noirs feel distant. Opinions feel lighter. Drama feels unnecessary. You begin to feel something new. Enoughness. Not the kind that comes from having everything, but the kind that comes from being content inside. This is when reactions reduce even more. Before reaction came because something outside of you had power over your peace. Now, that power is gone. When Allah becomes enough for the heart, the world loses its grip. You still live in the world. You still interact with people. You still face challenges, but the world no longer lives inside you. This difference is everything. Before, criticism hurt deeply because it threatened your sense of worth. Now, criticism feels like information, sometimes useful, sometimes meaningless, but it no longer defines you. Before, praise lifted you high because it fed something empty inside. Now, praise feels pleasant but not necessary. You appreciate it, but you don't depend on it. This balance is new. It feels calm, it feels steady, it feels safe. Allah has filled a space that people used to fill. And when Allah fills a space, nothing else is needed there. Another subtle change appears. You stop chasing outcomes. Before, you were always looking ahead. What will happen? What will they think? How will this turn out? Your heart lived in the future, constantly anxious. Now, you live more in the moment. You do what you can. You make the effort. You leave the result. This letting go was once very difficult, but now it feels natural. Not because you stopped caring, but because you trust Allah more. Trust removes tension. Tension was fueling reactions. When tension fades, reactions fade. You begin to understand something important. You are responsible for effort, not outcome. This understanding is freeing. You stop reacting to things that are outside your control. You stop fighting reality. You stop exhausting yourself trying to manage what was never yours to manage. Allah takes care of what belongs to Him, and that includes outcomes. As this trust deepens, your heart becomes quieter, not empty, quiet. Quiet hearts notice more. They notice blessings. They notice lessons. They notice guidance. Noise once blocked this awareness. Now that noise is gone. You start hearing your own thoughts clearly. You start recognizing your own needs. You start understanding what truly matters to you. This clarity changes priorities. Things that once felt urgent now feel optional. Things that once felt important now feel small. And things that truly matter become clearer. Your faith, your peace, your character, your connection with Allah, these things rise to the top. When priorities shift, reactions shift. You no longer react to things that don't matter. You conserve your energy for what does. This conservation is wisdom. Allah teaches wisdom through calm. Another deep change happens. You stop needing control. Before, control felt like safety. If you controlled situations, you felt okay. If you controlled conversations, you felt secure. But control is exhausting. And control is an illusion. Allah slowly teaches your heart that true safety does not come from control. It comes from reliance. Reliance on Allah creates peace in uncertainty. When uncertainty no longer scares you, you stop reacting to it. You stop forcing answers. You stop demanding clarity. You stop panicking over the unknown. You allow life to unfold. This does not mean passivity. It means trust. You still make effort. You still plan. You still think, but you don't panic when things don't go your way. This calmness protects you from emotional burnout. Another subtle shift appears. You become less defensive. Before, defensiveness came from fear. Fear of being blamed. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being judged. Now, fear loosens its grip. You can accept feedback without collapsing. You can admit mistakes without shame. You can listen without feeling attacked. This openness is powerful. It allows growth, and growth requires calm. Allah removes defensiveness by strengthening the heart. A strong heart does not need to protect itself aggressively. It trusts itself. It trusts Allah. You also begin to notice that relationships feel different. You stop chasing people, not because you don't care, but because you don't fear loss the same way. Before, distance felt threatening. Now, distance feels manageable. You understand that Allah controls hearts. You don't beg for connection. You don't force closeness. You allow things to be. This trust removes desperation. Desperation once fueled reactions. When desperation fades, reactions fade. You begin to enjoy your own company more. Silence no longer feels empty. Being alone no longer feels heavy. You feel accompanied by something deeper. Presence. The presence of Allah. This presence fills the heart in a way nothing else can. When the heart feels accompanied, it does not react to loneliness. It rests. Another change settles gently. You stop comparing your journey. Before, comparison created restlessness. Why them? Why not me? Why now? Now, comparison feels unnecessary. You understand that Allah writes stories individually. Your story does not need to match anyone else's. This acceptance brings peace. Peace reduces reactions. Because comparison once triggered emotional storms. Now, those storms are gone. You also notice that you feel more grounded. Your emotions don't swing as much. You don't rise too high. You don't fall too low. This steadiness is a sign of contentment. Contentment is rare. And Allah does not give rare things without purpose. He gives contentment to protect the heart. Protected hearts do not react easily. They respond wisely. This lesson continues shaping you quietly. You may not even realize how much you have changed, but one day you will look back and see a calmer version of yourself. A version that does not panic. A version that does not chase. A version that does not break easily. That version exists because Allah became enough. And when Allah becomes enough, everything else becomes lighter. Allah is saving your energy for what truly matters. There comes a stage where Allah begins to teach the heart what truly deserves its energy. Before this stage, energy was scattered. You gave it to conversations that went nowhere, to people who did not value it, to situations that drained you more than they helped you. You woke up tired, not because you did too much work, but because your heart was constantly engaged. Engaged in thinking, engaged in worrying, engaged in reacting. Your mind rarely rested. Even when nothing was happening, your thoughts were busy. Busy replaying the past, busy worrying about the future, busy reacting to things that were not even present. This constant engagement slowly exhausted you. Allah saw this exhaustion. Allah saw how much you were carrying without realizing it. So Allah began teaching your heart how to conserve itself, not suddenly, not harshly, gently. You started feeling less interested in unnecessary conversations. Things you once debated passionately now felt pointless. Arguments that once pulled you in now felt tiring before they even started. You didn't lose intelligence. You didn't lose awareness. You gained discernment. You began to feel that not everything deserved your emotional investment. This feeling was new. Before, saying no felt difficult. Before, disengaging felt ruder. Before, stepping back felt like weakness. Now, stepping back feels natural because your heart understands something it didn't understand before. Energy is limited and Allah does not want it wasted. Every reaction costs energy. Every argument costs energy. Every emotional spike costs energy. And energy is meant for things that build you, not things that break you. Allah begins redirecting your energy away from noise, away from drama, away from endless emotional cycles, toward what matters. You start noticing that you have more patience for the right things, more patience for prayer, more patience for family, more patience for growth, more patience for healing. Before, impatience came easily because your energy was already drained. Now, with fewer reactions, you feel steadier. You also begin to feel clearer. Clarity often comes when energy is not wasted. Your mind feels less cluttered. You can think without rushing. You can decide without pressure. This clarity changes how you approach life. Before, you reacted to problems immediately. Now, you observe them first. Observation saves energy. You stop jumping into every situation. You ask yourself quietly, does this need my attention? Does this need my emotion? Does this need my response? Often the answer is no, and you are okay with that. This acceptance brings peace. Before, ignoring something felt wrong. Now, ignoring unnecessary things feels wise. This wisdom is taught. Allah teaches it through experience. He lets you see how much energy you lost in the past, reacting to things that changed nothing. He lets you feel how much calmer life becomes when you choose where your energy goes. Another subtle shift happens. You begin to protect your mental space. Before, your mind was open to everything. News, opinion, negativity, speculation. You absorbed it all. Now, you feel the need to limit what enters you. Not out of fear, out of awareness. You realize that what you consume shapes how you feel. So you choose more carefully. You avoid conversations that leave you heavy. You avoid environments that disturb your peace. You avoid topics that pull you into anger or fear. This is not avoidance of reality. This is preservation of clarity. Allah is teaching your heart that peace must be protected. Peace does not protect itself. Another deep change occurs. You stop reacting because reacting no longer feels productive. Before, reacting felt like doing something. Now, you see that reacting often just multiplies problems. You choose calm action over emotional response. This shift changes outcomes. Problems resolve faster when emotions are not inflamed. Relationships feel easier when reactions are reduced. You also notice that you recover faster from stress. Before, one stressful moment could ruin your entire day. Now, stress comes and goes. You don't carry it for hours. This is energy conservation. Your body responds to this too. Your sleep improves. Your breathing slows. Your shoulders relax. Allah created the body to follow the heart. A calmer heart creates a calmer body. Another important change appears. You stop feeling guilty for choosing rest. Before, rest felt undeserved, like you should always be doing more, reacting more, engaging more. Now, rest feels necessary. You understand that rest is not laziness. Rest is repair. Allah allows your heart to rest from unnecessary reactions so it can heal. This healing requires energy, and energy must be protected. You also become more selective about who you give your attention to. Before, you gave attention freely, even to those who drained you. Now, you choose carefully. You notice how certain interactions leave you heavy, and you step back, not angrily, not dramatically, quietly. This quiet withdrawal is another form of wisdom. Allah is teaching your heart to stay where it is nourished. Nourishment strengthens the heart. A strong heart does not react impulsively. Another subtle shift happens. You begin to feel more present. Before, your mind was elsewhere, either in the past or the future. Now, you are more grounded. Grounded hearts react less. They stay connected to the moment. This presence improves focus. You do things with intention. You listen fully. You speak thoughtfully. You move calmly. This intentional living is a sign of maturity. Allah matures the heart by teaching it to slow down. Slowness is not delay, it is depth. Depth requires energy, and energy is now preserved. You also notice that you feel less pressure to respond immediately. Messages can wait. Decisions can wait. Conversations can wait. This waiting reduces mistakes. Allah protects you from rushing into regret. Regret costs energy. Allah prefers peace. As this lesson continues to settle, you realize something powerful. You don't need to attend every emotional invitation. Not every comment is an invitation. Not every situation is a call to react. You are allowed to decline. This permission brings relief. Relief that you didn't know you needed. Your heart feels lighter. Not because life became lighter, but because Allah taught your heart where to place its weight. This lesson is still unfolding. It takes time. But each day, you feel a little calmer, a little clearer, a little stronger. Not in a loud way, in a steady way. This steadiness is the result of energy redirected. Allah is saving your strength for what truly matters. Allah is preparing you for a higher level of responsibility. There comes a point where Allah begins preparing the heart for something greater than comfort. Before this stage, life was mostly about surviving emotions, getting through the day, managing stress, avoiding pain, trying to feel okay. But when Allah plans to give the heart a heavier role in life, He changes how it reacts. Because a heart that reacts to everything cannot carry responsibility. Responsibility requires steadiness. Allah knows this, so He begins strengthening the heart quietly. You may not notice it at first. You may only notice that you don't respond the same way anymore. Things that once demanded a reaction now receive a pause. You don't rush to speak. You don't rush to decide. You don't rush to judge. This pause is not hesitation. It is preparation. Before, emotions were in control. Now, awareness leads. Allah is teaching the heart to remain steady under pressure. Pressure reveals what the heart is trained for. If the heart is untrained, pressure causes panic. If the heart is prepared, pressure brings clarity. You are entering the stage where clarity replaces panic. This is not accidental. Allah does not give responsibility to a heart that shakes easily. He does not place weight on something unstable. So He trains you through calm. You begin to notice that difficult conversations no longer scare you. Not because they are easy, but because you are steady. You don't rush to fill silence. You don't rush to fix everything. You listen more. You think more. Listening is a form of strength. Most people react because they don't listen fully. They respond to emotion, not understanding. Allah teaches you understanding first. Understanding slows reactions. Another change happens quietly. You become comfortable with being misunderstood. Before, misunderstanding felt dangerous. Now, it feels manageable. You trust that clarity will come at the right time. You no longer panic when people don't see things immediately. This patience is part of leadership. Leadership is not about controlling perception. It is about staying grounded even when perception is unclear. Allah may be preparing you to guide others. And guidance requires calm. A guide who reacts emotionally loses credibility. A guide who remains steady builds trust. You may not see it yet, but Allah may be placing you in situations that train the steadiness. Situations where reacting would harm you. Situations where patience protects you. Through these moments, the heart learns endurance. Endurance is different from tolerance. Tolérance survive discomfort. Endurance remain effective during it. Allah is building endurance in you. You also begin to notice that your words carry more weight. Not because you speak louder, but because you speak less, people listen more carefully. When words are not wasted, Allah is refining your speech by reducing unnecessary reactions. This refinement prepares you for influence. Influence does not come from volume, it comes from presence. Presence is built through calm. Another shift appears. You stop trying to control outcomes. Before, control felt necessary to feel safe. Now, you trust process. You do what is required and leave the rest. This trust frees the heart. A free heart thinks clearly. Clear thinking leads to wise decisions. Wise decisions are needed when responsibility increases. Allah does not rush this process. He allows the heart to mature gradually. You may feel like life is slowing down, but in reality, Allah is strengthening your foundation. Strong foundations are built slowly. Quick growth without strength leads to collapse. Allah protects you from collapse. That is why He slows you. Another important change appears. You become less reactive to other people's emotions. Before, someone else's anger became your anger. Someone else's stress became your stress. Now, you remain separate. You empathize without absorbing. This separation is essential. A heart that absorbs everything cannot lead. It collapses. Allah teaches you to care without carrying. This balance is rare, and rare qualities are developed carefully. You also notice that you can sit with discomfort. Before, discomfort demanded escape. Now, you can sit. You don't run immediately. You don't distract yourself instantly. You allow moments to pass. This ability is powerful. It allows reflection. Reflection creates insight. Insight guides action. Allah is sharpening your insight. Another quiet sign appears. You begin to trust your intuition more. Not impulse. Intuition, there is a difference. Impulse is loud and emotional. Intuition is calm and clear. As reactions reduce, intuition becomes easier to hear. Allah often guides through calm intuition. Noise blocks it. That is why He removes noise from the heart. You also notice that your presence feels grounding to others. Some people may feel calmer around you, not because you fix them, but because you are steady. Steadiness spreads. Allah uses steady hearts to stabilize environments. This may be preparation for roles you don't see yet. Roles that require patience, wisdom, emotional stability. Allah prepares before He places. He trains before He assigns. This is why reactions reduce before responsibility increases. You are not losing passion. You are gaining control. Control does not mean suppression. It means direction. Directed energy creates impact. Impact requires calm. Another subtle shift happens. You stop seeking urgency. Before, urgency made you feel alive. Now, urgency feels stressful. You prefer depth over speed. Depth creates meaning. Meaning sustains long-term effort. Allah is teaching you to work with meaning, not adrenaline. This protects you from burnout. Burnout happens when effort is fueled by emotion alone. Allah fuels you with purpose instead. Purpose créate endurance. Endurance is needed for what is ahead. This lesson is still unfolding. You may not fully understand why life feels different, why reactions are fewer, why calm is stronger. But this is a sign that Allah is preparing you for a higher level of responsibility. Not necessarily public, not necessarily visible, but significant. Something that requires a heart that does not shake easily. And Allah never prepares a heart without intention. Silence is sometimes Allah pulling you closer to Him. There comes a moment when the heart becomes quiet in a new way. Not empty, not tired, but deeply present. This quiet feels different from anything before. It is not the quiet of giving up. It is not the quiet of sadness. It is not the quiet of loneliness. It is the quiet of closeness to Allah. Before this stage, silence still carried weight. It felt like something was missing, like something needed to be said, like something needed to happen. Now, silence feels complete. You don't rush to fill it. You don't feel uncomfortable inside it. You don't feel pressure to escape it. You simply remain. This is one of the clearest signs that Allah has drawn the heart closer to Him. Because when the heart is close to Allah, it no longer needs constant noise. Noise was once a distraction, a way to avoid feeling, a way to avoid listening. Now, there is nothing to avoid. You can sit with yourself without fear. You can sit with your thoughts without being overwhelmed. You can sit with Allah without words. This stillness is not learned from books. It is learned through experience, through pain that taught you patience, through disappointment that taught you trust, through silence that taught you reliance. Allah uses life to bring the heart to this place. Before, you spoke to be understood. Now, you speak only when needed. Before, you reacted to feel alive. Now, you are alive without reacting. Before, you needed answers quickly. Now, you trust timing. This trust creates peace. Peace that does not depend on circumstances. Peace that remains even when things are unclear. This peace is not excitement. It is grounding. It makes you feel rooted. Rooted hearts do not shake easily. They remain steady even when the world moves quickly. Another quiet change happens here. You stop fearing the future, not because you know what will happen, but because you know who is in control. This removes a deep layer of anxiety. Before, anxiety lived under reactions. You reacted because you were afraid. Afraid of loss, afraid of delay, afraid of the unknown. Now, fear still exists, but it no longer controls you. You acknowledge it and hand it over. This handing over is surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is relief. Relief from carrying what was never yours. Allah never asked you to control outcomes. He asked you to trust Him with them. This realization lightens the heart. Another beautiful shift appears. You begin to experience presence during worship. Not rushed, not distracted, not mechanical. You pray slower. You breathe deeper. You sit longer. Not because you are forcing it, but because your heart is no longer running. Reactions once kept the heart restless. Now, the heart rests with Allah. This rest becomes a form of worship. Even silence becomes worship because it is filled with awareness of Allah's nearness. Another sign of this stage is that you stop measuring yourself by the world's standards. Before, success meant progress others could see, achievement others could applaud, growth others could recognize. Now, success feels internal. It feels like peace at night, clarity during the day, honesty with Allah. This shift changes everything. You stop chasing titles. You stop chasing approval. You stop chasing timelines. You move with purpose instead of pressure. Pressure created reactions. Purpose creates calm. Allah replaces pressure with purpose. When the heart is ready, another deep change occurs. You forgive more easily. Not because people suddenly deserve it, but because holding resentment no longer fits inside your heart. Your heart has changed shape. It no longer has space for bitterness. Bitterness once lived there because the heart was wounded. Now that it is healed, bitterness feels foreign. You let go, not to excuse wrong, but to free yourself. This freedom reduces inner noise. Noise once fueled reactions. Now, the heart is spacious. Spacious hearts do not react impulsively. They absorb gently and release quickly. You also begin to accept uncertainty without resistance. Before, uncertainty felt unbearable. Now, it feels manageable. You understand that clarity unfolds. You don't rush answers. You don't force direction. You walk step by step. Allah walks with you. This companionship is felt deeply at this stage, not as words, not as signs, as peace. Peace that follows you another quiet sign appears. You stop needing constant reassurance from yourself. Before, you questioned your choices, your silence, your patience. Now, you trust your alignment. You trust that if something feels calm, it is likely guided. Allah guides through calmness. He rarely guides through panic. This understanding strengthens confidence, not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that does not argue, the kind that does not react, the kind that remains steady even when challenged. This steadiness completes the journey. You are no longer becoming less reactive because of effort. You are less reactive because of closeness. Closeness to Allah. When the heart is close to Allah, the world loses its power over it. Not because the world becomes smaller, but because Allah becomes greater inside. This is the final stage, where silence is not absence. It is presence with Allah, and a heart that reaches this stage does not return to chaos easily. It may be tested, it may be shaken, but it remembers where it belongs, and that memory keeps it calm. Before you leave, take a moment to breathe. If your heart feels lighter right now, that is not imagination, that is understanding. Everything you felt, the slowing down, the calmness, the silence that confused you, it was never a loss. It was Allah protecting you. Allah was not taking something away from you. He was taking something off you. The burden of reacting, the exhaustion of explaining, the weight of carrying what was never yours. This quiet strength you are feeling now is not something everyone receives. It comes after patience, after restraint, after choosing peace when ego wanted noise. If your heart has changed, it is because Allah trusted it with growth. And if Allah trusted you with growth, He will not abandon you halfway. So don't rush yourself back into who you used to be. Don't fight the calm Allah gave you. Don't feel guilty for choosing peace. Silence does not mean you lost your voice. It means Allah taught your heart when to speak. Calm does not mean you stopped caring. It means Allah taught you what truly matters. And this version of you, the Keter one, the steadier one, the more patient one, this is not the end of your story. It is the version Allah needed you to become before the next chapter could begin. Trust Him. He sees what you cannot see yet, and He is gentle with hearts. He is preparing. If this message settled your heart, carry it with you. Not to prove anything, not to explain yourself, just to remember, when Allah is working on your heart, He often does it in silence, and that silence is not emptiness, it is mercy.